So, Linda, I want to thank you for being on the CEO Global Network podcast with us today. It's great to see you again. It's been a little while, hasn't it?
It has. It's wonderful to be here, John. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, I know. Thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure.
First question for you, Linda. What do you believe is the single most overlooked factor, if there is one overlooked factor in building a high performing sales team?
I would say, John, that the most important thing to building a high performing sales team is getting the right people. You want salespeople who are hungry, driven, ambitious, motivated by working with people, love a high sense of urgency. And I would emphasize wanting to be with people and working with prospects over a tightness around administrative stuff. Because sometimes when you get those really eager beavers who just want to be out there and building, building business, they might be a little weak in the admin side, and that's okay because we want them out there with the customer. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, how do you balance accountability with motivation when you're coaching sales leaders?
I love this question. So for me, leading a sales team is all about making sure that the team, the individuals on the team, know what success looks like. What are the steps? And then you support them and their success by making sure that you are laser focused on showing them what those steps are, how to achieve that success, working on their strengths, mitigating the things that they need to be better at. When you focus on showing them what success looks like, they'll start to get a sense that you're being, and you want to be genuine about it. They'll get a sense that you're genuine and that it starts to build trust. Once you've got trust with the individuals around this issue, then working with them on a sort of daily, depending on their needs, or weekly, certainly monthly basis to hold them accountable, to help with their motivation, it just becomes a lot easier. It's really hard to hold people accountable and build motivation if they think it's like you're beating them up or that you're, always finding out what's wrong. I worked with a leader recently who was always looking for what's wrong. And I think she thought that was what her job was. But in fact, it's look for what's right and support them, be on the same side of the desk with them.
That's great advice, Linda. That's a great point. Thank you for that. And what's the biggest mistake that companies make when they're trying to scale their sales function?
Well, assuming that you have the right people. So let's make that assumption.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to what does success look like and communicating that. And that most specifically has to do with their metrics, their activities, the things that you know or will develop with them that will lead to their success. So, as an example, my favorite KPIs for sales are understanding how much sales you have left remaining to go in the year, in the fiscal year. What is the pipeline to cover this, what I call gap? And then what is the activity? This is the hard part. What is the activity to fill the pipeline? What is it that you need to do? Whether it's events, marketing assistance, cold calling, which is challenging and very much a numbers game. But your people need to understand these numbers. They need to know their numbers, to know how much they need in their pipeline to cover the gap. And then I'd finally say to this point is changing out the people quickly. If you know, you know. Don't hang on to low performers for too long. It's going to cost you.
No, that's great advice, Linda. Thank you very much for that. Now, how do you get quick buy-in from a sales team that is really kind of resistance to the change that you're trying to implement?
So buy-in across the board, I mean, with salespeople just like anybody else, but buy-in
Yeah.
across the board comes from engaging people in that new direction, engaging them in that change. So think of it as like, here's our challenge. We're going to lay that out on the table. Here's what we need to achieve. Here's the outcome we're looking for. What ideas do you have to help us get there? So really what it is you're including them in the change and providing guidelines around what the outcome needs to be. Once people are involved and saying, I might say, I don't agree with this outcome, but I understand that's what we're looking for. Here's what I would suggest. You'll get them to suggest it. And then the psychology there goes that as soon as someone declares something publicly, they're more likely to do it. So if I'm giving you, John, a suggestion around a change, I'm more likely to be a part of that change rather than an edict that comes down, say, from on high. where, I'm like, don't agree with it. That's not going to work. That's never worked before. If you engage them in that decision and listen to their ideas, because often the people in the field, so to speak, have the best ideas, really honestly. There's only so much us as leaders can bring to that table.
Well, absolutely. And they're knowledgeable because they're right there with the customer all the time, aren't they, Linda? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they're hearing things that are important to get considered.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the role that branding and marketing play in accelerating sales results today. How important is that for companies today, Linda, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, a blanket statement, it's important, but it's very dependent on the industry that you are in. So I've got a couple of examples I want to share. One is if you're in a B2C business, then marketing is absolutely essential. Knowing your clients, how they buy your product or service or solution is critical. So you need to be thinking through the process that they go through to make a decision to purchase. And it'll be online for sure. I'd say that's true of B2B, and I'll get into that in a second. What sites do they go to? What research do they do? What matters to them when they're buying? And I'd say B2B is a little more nuanced in that it's likely clients are doing their research. That's what the research in this business in sales shows, but they're not necessarily buying online. And that would depend on the complexity of your solution. So they're definitely going to be researching. It's likely going to be online. They might call a buddy who, what do you do in this area around this problem you have? And then the same principle applies. This is where they're saying, how do your clients make decisions to consider your company? And then ultimately to work with you. What research do they do? Where do they do their research? What are they looking for? What problems are they trying to solve? Very important that we turn the table when it comes to marketing and really have a sense of how our customers make these decisions.
Absolutely critical, isn't it? Yeah. No, thank you for that. Now, I have just one last question for you, Linda, and then we'll wrap up. What is the toughest question that a client has ever asked you, and how did you answer that question?
Well,
Are you going to share that with us?
I'm so going to share that with you because I've thought of one. I have an idea.
No, thank
I
you.
would say when they say to me, can I have a better price? Can we have a better price? And the reason why I think that's the toughest question that I have had is because it means that I haven't built the value. I haven't directly addressed the impact that the work that I do with my clients will have on them. I haven't demonstrated that, and I haven't shown them an ROI. And so, shame on me, because that's a tough question when I get that. Now, I will also say though that the more gray hair I get, the less I get asked this question. I think that age and wisdom helps a little bit because you have more experience, you come across as more consultative, and I'm really big on a consultative process no matter what you sell to make sure you're really addressing what the issues are of the prospect you're talking to. But that would be my toughest question. Can you give us a better price?
Linda, I can't thank you enough for being on this CEO Global Network podcast. You have so much wisdom to share with us, and we appreciate you sharing it with us today. You're absolutely one of the sharpest persons that I've ever met in terms of sales and sales training, and so we really value you being with us today. We value you sharing your ideas and your thoughts on this with us. So thank you so much. It was
You're
great
welcome.
having you with us. Great to see you again.
Yeah, you as well, and you're most welcome. It was my absolute pleasure. We'll do it again soon.
We'll do it again soon. Yeah. Thank you.